Yeah, hi.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Do that every time. Just a rookie.
Hello, Harriet. It's a voice from the dark.
Oh, hi, Stu.
She likes Scottish voices in the dark.
Particularly in the dark. I retract.
Yeah. So Stu's gonna be in the background in case I do anything wrong and record. Now I've got this all figured out. I'm recording it the right way. We got it. We got this going on, Harriet.
Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, we're recording it. Yeah, we're recording it many ways. In fact, not just one way.
Yeah.
Fancy layering there at the end. Double it up.
Harriet's used to recording a lot of Scottish voices in the dark. That's how she rolls.
I have to resist the urge to just sit here and do heavy breathing in the background.
Just see if the others notice. What's that sound?
All right, Harriet, let's do it. We're going to call some random people all around the world and find out what's happening with their lockdown quarantine situation. You ready to go?
Cool. Yeah, I'm ready.
Cool.
Always.
I like your hair today. Your hair is very figure skater, very Tanya Harding.
It's my Stegosaurus look. You've seen that before.
Yeah, I have seen that before. I like the Stegosaurus. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to invite in two friends that you haven't met. They're both crazy as a bag of hammers. One is in New York and the other is in Portugal. Okay?
Cool.
Let's see what's going on. So I'm going to click admit to Jessica and admit to Clayton. And they're going to pop in any second here.
Hello.
Hey guys, what's going on? Hey Clayton, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, my buddy. How are you, man?
Good. Where are you right now, Clayton Morris, handsome Clayton?
I am north of Lisbon in Portugal. What about you?
Harriett and I are here in New Zealand in Queenstown. She's actually my neighbor right across the way, but I haven't actually physically seen her in about 4. How are things across the street, Harriet?
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Hey, Jessica.
Good. Hi, Jessica. Hi, Clayton.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Hello.
Things across.
Oh, look, it's Harriet. Oh, who's that? I want to know who all these people are.
Okay. Well, okay. The guy on the left, or my left, is Clayton in Portugal. Where are you, Jessica?
Well, how do I operate this thing? I don't know. Oh, then I just made everybody appear on just their one little thing. Like I just created all of you. I'm God.
Hey, Jessica. We were just getting an update from across the street here in Queenstown. What's going on up at the Harriett residence?
At the lodge. Yeah. I mean, it's got really cold lately. That's probably the biggest difference. Mm-hmm. Snow on the mountains. I am in the last week, so we've just finished week 3 of our lockdown. I felt really a bit down. It kind of hit me in the last week. And then I read something online, as you do, about week 3 being like killer week, and then beyond that, things get better. But yeah, it was true for me anyway. I just felt like kind of all was like a little bit on top of me.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I've been okay, but like definitely not in as high spirits as I was the first 2 weeks. How about you guys?
I got it. Hey, by the way, I'll give you guys a little Zoom tip. If you're not talking, you should probably mute, because like little background sounds, whatever you're doing, wrapping a potato in aluminum foil, that kind of stuff comes out pretty loud.
That's exactly what I was doing. We're having our campfire. This is our annual tradition where we wrap baked potatoes in tin foil tonight. Son of a bitch. I didn't realize it was going to happen on the same night as this Zoom call.
Yeah. Well, you can reuse the tin foil to put around your head to protect you from the 5G. That's what the pros do.
Right.
I didn't bring my headphones. I'm sorry. Rookie error.
It's all right.
Yeah, sorry.
Don't worry about it. All right, hey Clayton, what's happening in Portugal? What's lockdown like north of Lisbon for you?
You know, they kind of got out in front of this pretty early. So before they had any big cases, before they had any deaths, they were ahead of the game on this. And I think the president actually put himself under like self-quarantine weeks before everyone else was still out on the beach, and he's like, hey, I'm going under quarantine because I had interacted. What was the deal? Like he wasn't even in the same building, but there was somebody in his cabinet that had met with somebody who had come from like Italy or something. And he's like, okay, it was like 6 degrees of separation, like Kevin Bacon, but still he was like, okay, I'm going to go home. And he stayed home in his place for 2 weeks. And it was kind of like a lesson to everyone else. And then everyone else just kind of fell in line. And so they've really been a lot different than neighboring Spain, which has been an absolute mess right now. So yeah, everyone, you know, maybe it's the, like the not long ago feeling of authoritarian regime where everyone just kind of falls in line from the 1970s. Like, oh yeah, you tell us to do something and we do it. We don't have democracy that long. So we just kind of fall in line and people just kind of do it. And,
right.
They've, over the past few days, they've been like flattening the curve, and the articles over the past 24 hours in Reuters and others have said like, why has Portugal been an anomaly in Europe? And I think maybe that's because they got out in front of it. So that's the latest from here.
Yeah, it's amazing with exponentials how just a few days or a week makes just a heap of difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, 4 days, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we're comparing it 4 to 9 days. I guess it was like in Spain, there was like still celebrations 9 days into it, where Portugal had already gone under, like closed down, and Spain was still celebrating, partying on the streets. And like those 4 to 9 days was like the total difference.
Jessica, what's it like for you? You're in New York, which is supposed to be the craziest place on the planet right now.
I'm not in New York, but I was in New York, and I could tell you what happened to get me to Virginia. Things were getting really crazy there, and though my studio and my apartment are like 2 blocks from each other, I was really afraid that my studio building was going to close, and then I'd have to studio inside my apartment, which is like all brick walls. And I got nervous about that. And the other thing I think is kind of interesting is we're facing those questions that we asked one another at parties or on first dates or when we were getting to know our buddies, like, what would you eat if it was your last meal? And what would you do if you only had 2 weeks to live? And what would you do if you had lots of time to do stuff? Like, we're all getting these questions answered. And we're all finding out. So that's kind of interesting from that perspective. But certainly devastating to so many people and other countries, and there's a lot of humor in it, but there's so much tragedy, and it is really like, it's crazy. In Virginia, it hasn't hit here very hard, but they're really responsive, and everybody's wearing masks, gloves, and keeping distance. And in New York, when I was in New York, people were still going to cocktail parties.
Okay, good job.
I love what she said, though. Said, though, Trey, if I may.
You may, please.
No, it's funny because like we, like you, I think we're kind of, lowly creatures who maybe like snails who don't like to go out much and interact. And when we do, we kind of like to revert back to our snail shell. So we've been kind of doing this for quite a while. And there's been, Natalie was telling me today, she's like, there's a kind of a meme floating around online about all these people who are like talking about how they're working from home for the first time. They're like, hey, look at me, I'm working from home. Like I've got internet at home. I'm doing this thing where I work from home, and it's like, it's funny to, I don't know. It's a weird world because you're getting to see all these people who are office bound, who are getting to come home for the first time and see their kids. And I don't know. It's been interesting because that's kind of been our reality for a while. And so now that the kids are home full time, that's been the maybe the more difficult thing is like trying to figure out the time slots for when they have their virtual classrooms and all this other stuff. But we're not going back. We're not going back to, I work in the real estate world, and I mean, wherever you work, it doesn't matter. I mean, the industries right now, it's like, I mean, you see all these changes coming to like the mortgage industry, and they're moving digital appraisals and digital notaries. And I mean, that genie's out of the box. I mean, they're not going back. They're not going to go back to paper after this. Like, that's it. Like these were things that were, I don't know, antiquated systems to begin with. And it's just only a matter of time, and now we needed this catalyst to put us here.
Yeah, for sure. Like you and I and some people around the world, we were already laptop warriors. We're on our laptops all day, and we run our businesses mostly online. We go out on occasion. But I think
very rarely.
I think the whole world is about to be rewired in a way. And so people that are used to hanging out on their laptops and doing stuff remotely, I think they're pretty well equipped for this new evolved world. Although I agree with Harriet too, this week 3 thing is a little weird, being in lockdown. I think it's good, you have Natalie and she has Dave and kids and stuff. It's a little weirder when you don't have any other human souls around. Like, I am an introvert. I do like going into my snail shell. But, 3 or 4 times a week, I do like to go out and see friends and, tell stories, or, hang out at the pub, or go on a walk with friends, or prepare a meal, or watch Netflix. Like, not being able to do that is super weird, and I think that's gonna mess with a lot of people's. I'm pretty well equipped to handle it, but I can see how that could really fuck with some people's brains.
I actually got that week thing from it was a prison detention officer who checks on home detention people, and they said that no matter who it is, where they've come from, what crime they've committed, doesn't matter. When they go into home detention, it's always week 3. And so it's like, obviously it's a psychological thing that happens to any human, regardless of your background.
Do you hang out, Harriet? Do you hang out with a lot of prison guards and parole officers? Is that sort of your running crew?
My thing, yeah. Secretly. No, I don't know them personally. I don't know where it came from. I've read a lot of rubbish on them, to be fair. There's a lot of stuff out there at the moment. To read.
You might find this interesting. Speaking about the week 3 stuff, I've been recently going through and working with somebody who's absolutely brilliant and fascinating, and working on his thesis and on human design. And one of the things that he's identified over these like weeks that we're in the middle of right now is the April 18th, April 17th, April 16th is like the reordering of things. Like last week was like the holy crap, we're actually in this thing. Mm-hmm. And now we're in the reordering of things moment. And we're sort of setting ourselves up for the next 10 years right now. Like if you like can seize upon this right now, and I think we all feel that way. I mean, I certainly feel that way. I don't know about you guys in your business and your life and your publishing and what you're working on, but I feel like that. It's a time to slough off the things that don't mean anything to you. It's almost like a license to say, on all of these things I was committed to that I really wasn't into. It's an opportunity now to get rid of and reframe and rethink about what's important in your life and what makes you laugh and where do you want to go. But we are in this like reordering phase right now, and it's so amazing to look at like the sort of astrological, but also like the human design stages of all of this over the next few weeks. And I think we're there. I mean, I certainly feel that, and I think maybe that week 3 thing is part of that.
How old are your kids, Clayton?
4, 4, 7, and 9.
Right. My kids are a little older than that. Not much, but I think speaking of the reordering of things, I think that education in school is going to have I think it's going to totally change, because now that parents are staying home with their kids and they're seeing how little work they do in a day, you send them off to school for 7 to 8 hours. The assumption is that they're busy and they're fully stimulated and blah, blah, blah. But really, they only do an hour or 2 or maybe 3 hours of actual work per day. And the rest of the time is just like daycare or whatever. And so it's actually a fairly inefficient way to educate your kids, normal school. And so I think that's going to be an interesting way, that something new that comes out of this is, because you and we all know the education system is totally fucked up. We're all outside of the square. Yeah. We're not traditionalist. We've always seen it for what it is, like a totally broken system. But now I think 100% of people are seeing like, hey, that system is kind of broken, and we could do better.
Well, I think the United States, I think being international, it's given us some perspective. I'll just speak about my experience. This is this is anecdotal, so take it for what it is. But, we moved outside the United States about a year or so ago, and moved out of that system and moved to a foreign country. We moved to an English school in Portugal. That school, every day they're learning Portuguese. They're better at their Portuguese than I am. But it's an international school. It's a State Department run school. It's that environment. They had to get their certification about 8 years ago. They had to be prepared that in the event of a war scenario or pandemic, they had to be able to go virtual within like 24 hours. And in order to get their accreditation and all that stuff, they had to be able to go, right? So they were almost like a little gun happy, like they were like, we've been ready for this. Like the teachers have been ready for this. And so the moment that this happened, where they were under lockdown, they flipped that switch. Like, here are your laptops. Here you go. We're doing virtual school live here every day. Even the PE teacher is like, hey, here are your like lessons in the afternoon. We want you to be out. You're going to be doing this with the cones and doing these drills to like it. And we're talking to our friends back stateside. And they're like, they don't have anything prepared. They have nothing.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy that a State Department, it's a U.S. government in a foreign country is better prepared than U.S. government in the United States? I just find this fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised. Actually, that makes good sense. You sound like you have a pretty good anecdotal situation going on there. Nico's not in school, is he, Harriet?
No, he was at kindergarten.
Uh-huh.
I actually pulled him out. I pulled him out early, super early. I saw the writing on the wall. So he's been out of kindy for ages. Yeah. But he didn't like it anyway, so he's quite stoked to be at home.
Did you see that when we go to level 3, which I guess might happen this week? What day do we go to level 3 lockdown?
Well, I suppose supposed to be Wednesday, I think, but
Wednesday at midnight.
I reckon they will. Yeah. I reckon they'll extend it by 2 weeks.
What is level 3? Like, give us what is that in New Zealand parlance?
It's lockdown with takeaways. Someone basically explained it.
So it's like a decrease or an increase?
No, it's down. It's step down. So it's relaxed the rules slightly, but you're still supposed to stay at home as much as possible, not really have any interaction with people. Some non-essential businesses can open, like i.e. takeaway stores, shops, whatever. Some people can go back to work in an office, but most people have to work from home still. And you can extend we've been talking about it as bubbles. So whoever you live with, whoever's in your house, that's your bubble, and you're not supposed to break that bubble. So level 3, we can add maybe like 1 or 2 other people to our bubble if you find that it's necessary. So, but in all other respects, it's pretty much the same as full lockdown.
I saw they are going to reopen schools, though. Who would send their kids to school? I wouldn't do it. Would you?
Yeah, and they've just said that, well, I think there was a bit of confusion about that here because some people were saying it was voluntary, and then they were just saying, well, no, when school opens, it's open, because the teachers, I've got a good friend who's a teacher up in Auckland, and she was saying, I don't know how I'm supposed to do the virtual teaching as well as the in-classroom teaching. She's like, it's a physical impossibility to do what they've been doing to date during lockdown and then to go and do classroom teaching again. She's like, we can't do it. So I think the teachers are pretty unhappy about the idea that they'll just become glorified babysitters, to be honest, which is kind of sounds like what it would be anyway. So
if they're against expanding your bubble, one or two people, the kids, they all run around together and they sweat and they're just piling on. It's like a big mosh pit when you send them. Yeah. That's to me, and they share germs like crazy. So
counterintuitive. And also, I just think what really annoys me is that they keep saying, oh, kids don't seem to be as affected by it, but they are like the best carriers, the best vectors for it. And they might not be that affected by it, but they'll bring it home and then, pass it on. So I just think, personally, I think if we break lockdown too early, it will be way more disastrous than if we add on a few more weeks to what we're already doing.
How many of you think you had coronavirus in the past few months? Because I sure as hell do.
Yeah, I think I had it. And I think because the symptoms are so varied, right, between people, and then that's coming out more and more that, you can have very few symptoms and have a very mild form, or very, very extreme, and obviously end up in critical condition in ICU. But I think I had it in end of February, beginning of March. And I would never have thought it was that until, I've seen what's happened around the rest of the world. But I had a one day where I had the sorest throat ever. I felt awful. I don't know if I had a temperature, I can't even remember. I just was like, I have to go to bed. And then I take these probiotic throat lozenges, and I just probably overdosed about 4 or 5 times more than I was supposed to. And I just think I maybe crushed the sore throat thing. But then for 3 or 4 weeks after that, I just felt nauseous, really, really lethargic. I had, moments where I just felt sweaty, and then I just couldn't put my finger on it. And then all this kind of happened, and then I've heard other people's anecdotal, evidence of their experience of having coronavirus, and they did test positive, and I'm like, well, that's exactly what I had. But I didn't have the fevers, and I didn't have, I had a tightness in my chest, I just felt like it was quite restrictive. That was probably the thing. I was like, maybe it was that. So yeah, I reckon I had it, but who knows?
Do you think you had it, Clayton?
Yeah, I think, my mother-in-law and her husband were visiting after Christmas. We flew back from the States, and we're here in January and February together. And it was 2 months of it was like an icy, it was like we should have been under lockdown, our apartment, with cough and fever. And Natalie was she had the worst fever she'd ever had. And she locked herself in the bedroom for 3 days. And it was coughing. And maybe it was a flu, I don't know, but you have to wonder. There's so many people, and certainly that's where the stuff we're seeing out of Africa right now, the lack of testing. It's how many people actually have this currently, don't know that they have it, never knew that they had it, and carried it to other people. We watched that movie Contagion the other night. Did you see that movie? No,
but I know about it.
I don't know why we're total friggin' idiots for watching this right now, but we're we're masochists, I guess. So we're hey, let's watch this movie. But it's amazing how spot on it is, the movie. And it's
that, yeah.
I mean, it's crazy how spot on it is. So we watched it the other night, and they're, talking about how so many people have it. They don't even realize they have it. They just got a cough, or they got this thing. They're carriers of it. And that's the big concern about kids. Harriet's point about the kids and being in school, and they're just like little petri dishes. And so, I don't know. I mean, I wonder, I guess we won't know until we actually get the antibodies, and or we check to see if we have antibodies or not.
Yeah, they can. Can't they take your blood and see if you have that particular antibody? Is that a way to see if you've already had it? But I don't know. Is that test 100% sure? Or does that antibody look like other flu antibodies? I don't really know
they've discovered that some people who were coronavirus positive don't have antibodies. So some people haven't got the antibodies. And so I think this is the thing, like we just don't know enough about this virus. And it might be a vaccine eventually, but it might not actually even work. And even if you've had it before, if you didn't have the antibodies, you could get it again. And it could be worse, like I think I find it terrifying quite frankly.
Like I've got the bi-curious antibody, and I don't know if that what that means. I don't know.
I don't like to say bi-curious. I like to say ambidextrous. It sounds more athletic.
Right. But don't you find it weird? I mean, here's the I'm I know you love Trey. You're a fan of the science fiction, as am I. I mean, don't you find this sort of? I find like everyone's saying like, wow, this is like, all these people who have written books in the past. It's hard to believe. Now I'm more curious about like what the future will look like given this new environment. And so reading today about like the new normal for kids going to school, like Governor Cuomo was saying, Governor Murphy out of New Jersey was saying today that the new normal in New Jersey schools might be every kid goes to school wearing a mask. Before you go into a sporting event, will you get your temperature taken? Like, will you have to have, like, think about all of the levels of like how different we were after 9/11. How different will we be? And I mean, maybe it's science fiction, I don't know, or it's our new reality. Like, how different will shit be a year from now? Like going to large sporting events or going to public gatherings or flying, getting on the airplane. Like, will everyone be taking their temperature? Will you have to get some sort of a, like in the movie Contagion, you have to wear a wristband to show that you've passed the test before you have to wear it constantly. It's just a constant wristband that you wear, you tag, and you go before you can go into a grocery store. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's going to change things quite dramatically. There's obvious things, like I can see no one going to movie theaters for one thing, right? Because now people are getting so used. People have good screens at home, either big screens or even their laptop or even their phone, right? People are just going to get used to watching content like that, and so it's really going to fuck with Hollywood, which is fine in a way because I think they were a little too elitist, or whatever, right? They had a good run, all those people in Hollywood, and then when it comes to sporting events and stuff, I don't know. Big crowds, I think people are going to be less likely to go, and you could just still consume. I don't know for sure, but I think most of their money from sporting stuff is made from selling ads on the internet anyway, or ads on regular TV. People going into offices and stuff, that all may dramatically change. Man, I don't know. It's going to be a wild ride, though. It'll just be interesting just to watch. I feel bad for people who were stuck in that old economic system, and some of it will bounce back. But man, it's going to be rough for a lot of people. I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested. I'm certainly interested to see where it goes, but and like, what does it mean for families too? Like, there's a lot of people who, think about, for the first time in a long time, I've got friends outside of New York City that have a 2-hour commute, into the city into Manhattan, 2 hours at night. They never get to see their kids. They never get to see, like, they get like home at 8:00 at night. And then the kids are like hanging around bleary-eyed just to say goodnight to, mom or dad. And now they're like stuck at home with them, and they're like, oh my God, I have kids. What do I do with these creatures? They're like learning their.
Yeah, I think it's a happy byproduct of this that people get to spend more time with their families. I know, 24/7 can be a big ask sometimes, but I know so many people who do that. They commute and they work long days, and they've just loved spending so much time with their kids and their partners. And I think that's just been that's helped with I think will help with the reshift, like the reset, the refocus on what's important. People will be like, oh, do I really want to go back to just seeing them at bedtime, whatever. Yeah, I mean, because I'm at home 24/7 with Nico pretty much, apart from when he was at kindy a couple of mornings a week. So for me, this hasn't been, like you, Jessica, it hasn't been that unusual. I'm at home all the time, pretty much anyway. But for Dave works pretty long hours. He flies a lot. He travels a lot, which has obviously completely stopped for him. And he's working in our guest accommodation next to the house. And he pops in for morning tea and afternoon tea and lunch, and he's loving every minute of this. He's like, kind of feels like Christmas. He's like, I don't feel like I can say that because for a lot of people this is really hard, but he's like, it's just so great. So yeah, I think it's, yeah.
I saw Dave a couple days ago. I was out on a run, and he was running with Nico in a little jogging stroller. He seemed happy as a clam. Yeah. And he seemed pretty bullish on, because he's in construction, that he's still got some government work to do, and there could be funding coming in to do more kind of infrastructure stuff. So I think he'll be okay. But I think construction as a whole will take a bit of a dip, eh?
I think just probably true for any business. If you weren't in a great financial position before this happened, it's going to hurt big time. But thankfully, we were in a pretty comfortable position before it all kind of happened, so we can ride it out, I think. I mean, not forever. So hopefully we're not in lockdown for too long. But yeah, I think it's kind of showing up the businesses who perhaps were struggling a wee bit before. Yeah, not ideal.
Yeah, I feel bad for all the restaurants, but we're talking about the sci-fi future, Clayton. I think that all these takeout places, that they will be doing like regular testing. It's going to be like part of their thing, and they'll get tested like, I don't know, every 24 hours, every 48 hours. And I don't know if they'll have some kind of futuristic wristband or something, but it'll be on their website. Because you want to make sure that the people that are bringing you food and the people that are cooking the food, that they're not, ridden with the virus. So that'll become just, I think, more normal. Even me, like, I'm not that scared. I'm not worried about getting the virus. I do worry about passing it on to other people, of course, especially old people. But me, I'm sort of the opposite of Harriett. I always call her a hypochondriac in kind of a joking way, but also a serious way. But that's fine. This has just only confirmed her hypochondria, this whole situation, which is not good. But I'm not worried, and I bet about half the population is not worried like me. But all it takes is half the population to be worried to completely change the way that people touch food, or the way people deliver things, so on and so forth.
I think masks are really key. I think where is it? Czech Republic. It's like a mandatory now. If you're going out and about, you have to wear a mask. And as long as people do it properly, because I think that's the problem. Some people don't. You can't touch it. Once it's on. Like, you leave it. But that's the only real way to contain the droplets, so to speak. So I think that's probably, like, the mask thing is going to be. They're just going to have to design some better masks, because they get so sweaty and hot and uncomfortable. So someone's going to have to come up with a really fancy mask thing that everyone can wear. But because I think that's the other thing that scares the hypochondriac in me, is that asymptomatic people are walking around also spreading the disease, and that's a big thing. And now they're talking about it being airborne, whereas they were saying it wasn't before. So I just think, I don't know, safety first.
Okay, you're such a hypochondriac, and you spend I don't know what percentage of the day worrying about this stuff, but it's much higher than mine. Have you ever thought about just cutting that to zero and just getting sick, make sure the whole family is sick, and just run through it, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore?
But you probably already have, like you said, you were test patient number 1 in New Zealand.
You were.
Yeah, I was the one that spread it.
You're patient 0.
Right. Imagine
patient
that.
0.
Oh, wow. No. I mean, living in Queenstown, we're definitely more exposed, I think, than a lot of the rest of the country, because we are the number 1 tourist destination. We have people flying in direct from all over, pretty much. So there is a high chance. we would
Harriet,
get
I definitely saw
like,
you. You know, there's a new underground club in downtown Queenstown. It's technically underground. It's a big like mosh pit EDM place. It's called Wuhan, and it's pretty much all Chinese people. And Harriet was in there. She was crowd surfing, and I thought that's a terrible idea, Harriet.
I was wearing a mask, Trey. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that's all you were wearing though, just a mask.
A bird mask.
It's actually crowd surfing.
Bat mask.
A mask. I thought about going to the store, and you know, I have all my Burning Man stuff, so I have these crazy face masks, like they're like all steampunky, and so I thought about just going in full Burning Man gear to the store, just to see what.
There were dinosaurs and Tekken Slave the other day.
I saw that.
Yeah.
What about going to, like, I would love to go in one of those old school plague masks, you know, the beak masks. Can you get a steampunk beak mask?
You can. I have one, and I wore it, but it would really creep people out. But I thought it was cool. You could actually go on Etsy and look for it. They're called Plague Doctor masks, and they might come back in style, you know.
They're those really pointy ones, right? Like the cone-shaped ones.
Yeah, they look like a crow. Yeah.
And I think they used to keep like garlic in there or something because they thought the garlic would keep out the Black Plague. You know,
we went to the grocery store today. My little girl and I, she's 6. I don't know. She's either 6 or 7. I can't.
Somewhere in there.
She's got a birthday coming up in May. She's upset because, you know, she can't have a birthday party, so we're gonna do like a big virtual birthday party with like family around the world and like do like a scavenger hunt virtually, which is like weird. So, but and we went to the grocery store today. She and I we rolled into and she had a mask on and with the gloves but like half the people wear them, so you're kind of like, should I wear it? But it's not about you. It's about like who you're infecting by not having the mask on, I guess, right? So you're putting it on because now in Portugal, to Harriet's point, it's mandated. If you go into a public place, you have to wear a mask. They want you to be, you know, if you go to a grocery store, you got to have a mask on. Like they want you to do that. So,
yeah. Hey, Clayton, your audio is a little glitchy, I think. So I'll mute you for a second. I just heard a little popping in the background. Did you hear that, Harriet, or is it just me?
No, just you.
Oh, maybe it's just me. Yeah. In the U.S. in the West, it's weird to wear a mask. It's normal in Asia. You know, I've traveled all over Asia. They wear them all the time, especially in Japan. But they wear them because they don't want to get other people sick, right? And it's a nice thing to do. That's the attitude in the East. But in the West, if you wear a mask, people just assume that you're sick. They don't assume that you're doing something nice for other people. So that attitude needs to change a little bit, and maybe this will help it to change.
Or you're a vigilante, or they just assume you're a vigilante.
Yeah.
Like that's when people look at me. They're like, "You look like you're stopping crime all the time." Like, you know, that's just like a natural thing. So I'm like, I'm gonna stop wearing this mask in public. I'm gonna stop that.
Yeah, you should wear a mask in like a skin tight superhero outfit at the same time.
Like David Byrne in the like a psycho killer outfit on his latest tours. Like he would wear just like the muscle suit skin, so you could just see all of his muscles and tissue removed.
Hey, Jessica, let me unmute you here. Do you have any cool art you can show us? Inspire us with one of your crazy creations, eh? I know you got something at the ready.
Okay. I'll show you some things.
Okay.
I don't. Okay. There. All right. So this is where I am. I'm gonna just put you out the door for a minute so you can see.
Oh, nice day.
Lovely.
Yeah, there's the greenhouse. Isn't it beautiful? I feel really like mixed about being here because this is like everything I've always wanted. But there's bad things happening. So I'm working on these bees.
Mm-hmm.
Some bees. This is what it looks like in here. There's some daffodils because when I got here there were daffodils growing. That's water. That's squash. There's me. Hi guys. Then I have these paintings. These are internal landscapes. They're a place called Matilda, and they're inside me. There's some more bees. Another Matilda.
Can you elaborate a bit more on Matilda?
One up there. Sure.
Who's Matilda?
So, but first I just want you to see the zebra. Matilda, so if I have a really vivid
Jessica, I'm gonna mute you. Your internet is so bad. I feel like it's 1989. I'm on my 14.4 modem trying to download like really low quality porn. You know, it loads really slow. You're like, oh my gosh, what is that? What is that? And then you realize it's a goatee. You're like, that was a waste of an hour.
Oh, I thought it was a nipple.
Yeah.
Yeah. A goatee.
Like, God damn it. The thumbnail looked better.
Yeah.
Oh,
Terrible.
Is that Emmanuelle in space?
Emmanuelle. Yeah, that was all the good stuff. That's on Showtime or Cinemax, wasn't it?
Cinemax, late at night.
Yeah.
Do you know what I learned last night?
Yeah.
You know what I learned last night about Emmanuelle? We did a pub crawl. We did a pub crawl with our London friends last night, and Emmanuelle apparently is like public domain.
Oh, really?
Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
So like you could like make your own Emmanuelle movie right now. I guess apparently it's like public domain as a.
Oh.
So that's why, and same with like George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Like he never had it properly copywritten, I guess. So it became public domain in much the same way that Emmanuelle in space.
Harriet, we could do that. We could do Emmanuelle on Mountain View Road.
Yeah.
Of course, I'll be playing Emmanuelle. You're gonna.
Where does that leave me?
Don't know. You could be the fluffer. I'll share a future sci-fi concept with you, Clayton. Although it's not really sci-fi, it's kind of retro sci-fi in a way. I think, and I'm going to do an experiment here on my land because I have about 10 acres. I think that we might see like little villages pop up where people live together communally, but not like a commune, because communes never work. You know this if you've ever tried to share a pizza with a bunch of communists. They don't work. But yeah, I thought about getting some yurts and some of those tiny houses and just kind of put them on the land and have friends come live in and around each other and have like fires every night, and we prepare food together. And because I think these books by Yuval Noah Harari, Sapiens and Homo Deus, and these, like, he posits this great theory that humans are the only animal on the planet that believe in fiction, and it allows us to cooperate with each other. So we believe in fictions like, whatever, like how long a meter is or how heavy a pound is, or like it makes it convenient to meet now at 10 a.m. New Zealand time. Time is a fiction that we all agree on. But I think another fiction that we've all accidentally agreed on is that we're all supposed to live in separate little boxes or little houses. And I know you're part of this world because you're in real estate, but maybe that's not really how we're supposed to live, because most of our ancestors did live in villages. And so anyway, I thought I'd do a little experiment here and start building a little village on my land, because it works so well at Burning Man. I think if most people in the village are productive and make money like doing something else, maybe they deliver pizza or they have an internet business or whatever. So I think 80% of the people actually make money in the village doing something else. 20% maybe don't make money, but they provide other services to the village. I think it might be kind of a fun little social experiment, and I think it might work.
I love I think there's so many variables to that. And I think, Do you know Michael Singer? Have you read any of The Untethered Soul?
I love, that's the #1 book I recommend to people. Yeah,
yeah?
The Untethered Soul. Yeah.
Maybe we haven't talked since but
yeah,
that book got me through a really dark time over the past few years, as you know, some of what, but he just sort of allows for these people to come to his land in Ocala, Florida, and just sort of build on his land, right? He's just sort of allows for it because or The Surrender Experiment, his other book, sort of surrendering to.
I read that one too.
You're going to build on my land? Okay. I guess I'll allow. You're just going to build a house here? Oh, okay, but I own this land. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then he ends up marrying her. Okay. So I think there's something to be said for that. I don't know. I'm of two minds of it. I think we're seeing the destruction of systems, though. I think this idea of capitalism that many in the United States hold dear. The argument is that, you put capitalism under a quarantine for 18 months or even less than that. We've now seen it within 2 months. It really collapses in a lot of ways. So this idea of sharing and having communal resources is really powerful. And you're seeing a lot of that now with suddenly the government is less concerned about tax time in the United States. They're more concerned about sending money out to other people so that they can pay their bills and contribute to the economy. So I think there's something to be said for these new systems. I mean, the US dollar is being crushed, but the idea, look, you bring up a great point, because historically we were never meant to leave our villages. Right. So I know Natalie and I wrestled with that when we had, I know you wrestled with that when you moved to New Zealand, for crying out loud, right? Yeah. We wrestled that when we were living outside of New York City. Her family's in San Francisco. Mine is in Pennsylvania. So we have no family here. And historically, you lived in the same village as your elders, so they could take care of the kids. You could, you'd have date nights, but you know what I mean? You were all there, so you could, we don't have any of that. And that's kind of the new normal. And maybe it's to your point, it's a return to this sort of ancestral way of living with people.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, I think, to have a village, like you said, to raise the kids. It is a weird system now where, you've technically made it, you are successful, and this is probably an American export, but it's pretty much all around the world now. And capitalism, you've made it when you have your own house and your white picket fence, and then you have kids and you put them in their own little boxes inside the house. And so it's just two parents raising their kids. And then of course the parents are off working and they got to do daycare and people are running all over the place. That system just doesn't really work that well. It stresses out everyone. And really the village would raise the kids. Grandparents love kids, and when you're our age, right, this is the most productive time of our life, supposedly. We can go off and work and then come back and still play with the kids. But we don't have to be there with the kids 100% of the time. And I don't know how the whole world can be reworked into sort of a village system. I don't know. That's not really my problem. But I can do it here. And I know lots of people that would like to move here and hang out and it would, plus it'd just be
I'd be
fun.
There.
Yeah, come on. I'll save you guys a heated yurt.
A yurt. I mean, look at the tiny house movement, right? I mean, I mean, this is what you talked about my background in real estate, and Harriet, I'm fascinated to know the construction side. I mean, we're seeing in the United States right now an affordable housing crisis. So we build affordable houses, and we're building about 400 this year in Texas, and that's our main focus. And because we're deemed essential right now, during this lockdown, because we have such an affordable housing crisis in this country. But those people that own land, there's lots of people that own just raw land who have in the past historically just given people mobile home leases to kind of park their places. And now with the tiny home movement, they're allowing sort of the same leases and hey, come just build your tiny home here or park your tiny house on this particular plot of land. And because it's mobile, you can move your tiny house around and you don't need all this. You have the land, you have this tiny house. I don't know. I think there's a lot of people that are being way more practical instead of building these giant McMansions and just realizing that they don't need all of that space, and just being able to have a smaller footprint in this world and be able to share time with their family in a smaller way.
I agree. I think it's, I think a lot of people are getting a unexpected wake up call. You know, people that were stuck in that system, the super capitalist system, and you get a big house and you have to fill it with nice couches so that when people come over, they're impressed at your nice couch or whatever, right? There's like a lot of ego that's tied into capitalism and just getting more and more shit and getting cars you can't quite afford, so people think you're cool because you drive a cool car or whatever. It's all nonsense. And so I think like that's what's good when people's paychecks dry up, which is happening to a lot of people, and they're sitting there in this big house with their nice couches and their now nice cars. They're going to be like, why the fuck do I have all this stuff? It's a complete waste, right? And that may be their moment of realization. They're like, oh, okay, I guess maybe there is more to life than having a nice couch and a nice car. And it's going to be a rough ride to come to that realization. But you know, I mean, you've been down this path with Michael Singer and like getting to know yourself from the inside and letting go of yourself and all these trappings and just having more of a minimalist life that matters. So luckily, we've been through this before, but a lot of people are going to be forced to go through it, and it'll be pretty stressful, but maybe it'll be a good transition, I hope.
I think that's for the end game, the capitalist goal, right, is the pursuit of happiness by acquiring stuff. So I was listening to that Sam Harris podcast the other day, the one about what is happiness, and
that was a great one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's just like the foundation of the world that we live in at the moment is, you know, is premised on like you've got to have stuff to be happy, and it's just not true. But like, I think it's going to be really hard for a lot of people, I think, to break that, you know, like it's so entrenched. And yeah, I mean, happiness and success seems to be measured by your acquired wealth, which, obviously is not true, but it's like, how are we going to break that? I don't know. I feel like that's going to be a hard one for a lot of people to get their head around, especially if you've grown up in that world. Like I grew up in that world. That's all I've ever known, is that your wealth is your measuring stick. But anyway, I mean, I don't get the whole world how I think. I'm not saying that's how.
Well, the famous story is, I mean, you know, the Upper East Side of Manhattan, right? It's the wealthiest zip code in the world, right? Upper East Side in New York City. It's also the unhappiest zip code in the world. And so, you know, you can have all these material items. There's a great show. Have you ever seen Odd Mom Out?
No.
Hilarious show. Odd Mom Out. It's hilarious. And she's, I mean, it's, you know, it takes place in the Upper East Side, and she's like this odd mom out of this like crazy, ridiculous, like, you know, everyone's miserable. There's like when the dads get divorced, they go to this like halfway house kind of hotel in the Upper East Side. They all hang out. Like, I mean, it's like, and it's true. I don't know how we break ourselves of it, but it's funny. We moved to Portugal last year, and we came with just our suitcase, one suitcase each. I was like, what do we need? Like, what do I need to kind of like run my business and just kind of continue? I brought my Sony camera, brought my iPad, and that was it. And our kids brought a few outfits and a few items, and that was it. And it's amazing what you don't need when you winnow it down to that. You know, I think, was it what's his name? Oprah had a great interview with, what is that? You know,
Emo Phillips.
Emo Phillips. No, it was it was Weird Al Yankovic. No, it was Eco Pyre. I forget his name, but anyway, he was, you know, he's written a bunch of books about stillness, and Oprah had him on his show a couple of.
Eckhart Tolle.
No, not Eckhart. It was.
Don't know.
I know Eckhart, but Eco. I think his name is like Eco, ICO or something. It's really. Anyway, nevertheless, you can deal with this in post. But he's been on Oprah's show multiple times. He had a huge house in Malibu, and he had like a massive house. And he talked about how when his house caught on fire, and he heard that his massive house in Malibu caught fire, and everything that he had owned was in this house, but he was safely outside of it. And when he had heard that it had caught fire and was burning to the ground, he was so relieved that it burned to the ground. And now he lives in Japan in a small apartment with his wife, and just loves it. And he's like, I could never go back. And you realize like the shedding of this like ego, the things that you're attached to. And it was a remarkable moment for him that in this fire, this burning down of his massive lair, he just looked and said, thank goodness. I just love that.
Yeah, it's incredibly freeing. And when you do that, it's great. It's great for you personally, although it does ostracize you from a lot of people because they just don't understand you, right? They just don't get it, because you've kind of checked out of society. You're not a normal person. You don't care about the stuff everyone else cares about. And even more, you just don't even have any tolerance to talk to them about anything. You just check out, like, I'm gonna go over here, guys. So right. It's a great thing. It's liberating, but then you start to collect a new set of friends around you. And that takes a while to like reshuffle your real life social network. But I'm still convinced that I think when you open your heart to the universe and you're vulnerable and you let everything go, that the right people do show up at the right time.
Nice. There's Netflix doco, Minimalism. Has anyone seen it?
Yeah, I have seen that one.
It's quite good. I mean, it wasn't like mind blowing, but it was just illuminating in a way. It was nice. I thought it was nice. Anyway, I thought, I need to get rid of some clothes. Maybe.
I did that. So before we moved to Portugal, I was going to say, I did that sort of, what's her name?
Marie Kondo.
Marie Kondo. Yeah. So, and it was a cathartic experience because, the idea of like, all right, touch this thing. If it brings you some sort of a joy, you should keep it, right? This t-shirt that you've had since 1982. Yes. When you were in shape, which for me was like 1989. So, okay, you're holding on to this crap for nostalgia reasons. And, you have trophies. I had like karate trophies, and I had like, I don't know, all this kind of crazy stuff. And I'm like, why am I holding, like, why do I have this particular trophy in my home office to show off to whom? Like, who is someone going to come over to my home office and sit in my chair and, oh, you were, New York City's funniest reporter in 1995. Who the hell cares? Like, and so you hold on to these things. And so you start to like go through all this crap, and so I started throwing out all of these shirts and clothes, and I had shirts that I never, like, the tags still on them. At the end of the day, I thought about, like, there's only like 3 or 4 shirts that I ever wear. Like, why am I keeping all of this crap, And so I just got rid of everything. And I went down to just like one pair of pants, a few shirts, and I brought like 2 items with me to Portugal. And it was a really just amazing experience. And so, anyway, I just, not to go off on that, but I love the idea of like dwindling your stuff down to mostly nothing. Because at the end of the day, if someone was like, hey, there's a fire up on the ridge above your house right now, you've got 15 minutes to grab the things that are most important to you. Get the heck out. What would you grab? Like, what would you take with you?
Giving me anxiety thinking about it.
I would take like 1 or 2 of my kids and like a few of my shirts and like just get out of here, right?
Funny.
Yeah, you could just make your kids wear like 17 shirts each, and so they can lag behind. And it'll be Darwinian, whichever one keeps up and stays ahead of the flames,
like, Daddy, these aren't even my shirts. But like, come on, they're Daddy's favorite shirts.
Wear them, you bastard. You ruined my life. Hey, okay. Speaking of Netflix, we can end by having a little Tiger King update. Have you watched that final bad episode yet, Harriet?
Oh, I started in probably 5 minutes and I turned it off. I couldn't deal with the guy hosting it.
I don't think that Joel McHale's funny. I think he's super annoying. He thinks he's hilarious, but he's not.
No, I couldn't deal.
No, my sister told me tonight. She was telling me, she's like, "Oh, have you watched episode 8?" And Natalie and I were like, "Oh yeah, we watched the whole season." And she's like, "What did you think about Joel McHale's interviews?" We're like, "What are you talking about?" No, we haven't seen this like last buffer episode with Joel McHale interviewing.
Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Yeah, I watched it just because they interviewed everyone now that the documentary's come out, so it's kind of interesting in that way. I find him to be annoying, but it wasn't like as crazy as the other episodes. It was more like, do you watch Westworld, Clayton?
I do. I'm halfway. Sadly, I'm halfway through season 2 because season 2 kind of
Yeah, so what I do with all Westworlds is they make me feel super dumb. I have no idea what the fuck's going on in that show. So I always watch, there's these good YouTube explainer shows, right, where they break it apart and tell me what happened. So that's kind of what this final episode of Tiger King is like. It just it's a little bit of an explainer. But.
Good. Well, I'm glad I don't feel so dumb then, because I'm like watching Westworld. I'm like, what the fuck? Whose scalp was what in season 1? Am I supposed to know that?
Yeah, you got to watch the explainer episodes.
Yeah.
Season 3 is really good, by the way. I think they've only released episode 5. It's great, but I still have to watch the explainer episodes. It's very well done, though. You'll like it. It's super. They go into future world in season 3, so you'll like that.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, right on. All right, well, bye. Oh, do you have a final tip you want to share before you leave? Harriet, do you have one?
Oh, me? No.
Yeah.
I don't have any tips. No.
You don't have any tips on like how to make your hair look like Tanya Harding or just something?
Just hairspray. Just pull it real tight. No.
Tanya Harding. Beautiful. I would say, look, I think I hear from thousands of people in my audience who are really struggling right now to like make ends meet and to struggling with being out of work and like, what do they want? And so when you watch a show like this and you see Trey, who was really an inspiration for me years ago, like while I was still working at Fox News in New York City and had the entrepreneurial bug and was building things on the side, but here Trey was building something from the ground up. And here's an opportunity right now. You're home. If there's something that you're passionate about that you can actually drill down on and spend some time actually working on a project that brings you passion, whether it's building a website, a photography website, or if it's a food blog or whatever it is, just spend that extra time right now. Just take that course, read that book, and just go for it. Because you might find that you can execute on this, and look for those little quick wins, I think too. Like I love those little quick wins, whether it's that first like bit of revenue that you get from that one thing that you've done, or it's that one person who's like read that post that you did that like says that it meant something to you. I don't know. I think right now is a time to be reborn. And so if not now, when? Holy smokes. I mean, I think we're sort of given this opportunity right now to rethink everything and to build something. So that's my tip, because I've been looking at all kinds of ways to rebuild right now, and I'm loving this experimental phase. So try it, do it, live it.
Yeah. Very smart. I like that. My tips is kind of along that same line. Every day there's this website called masterclass.com, and they've got all these amazing classes. And I watch 2 or 3 episodes a day from great teachers, and it's stuff that I have no plan on doing. Like I just finished David Lynch teaches directing, right? I'm not going to be directing any movies, I just love hearing that guy talk. I finished Hans Zimmer teaches film composing. I'm not going to be composing any films or any musical scores. And so I'm watching all this stuff that I have no intention of doing, but it's very interesting to hear them talk about their creative process in their own way. And it's very encouraging because they're all quite self-effacing and they're all like, listen, we have no idea what the fuck we're doing. We just have some ideas. And so that encourages me to make some mistakes. I've been working on these new weird fractal animations. And then I have a composer friend over in Arrowtown named Sam Mertens, and he's doing custom music for it. I don't know what we're going to do with these things. They're very hard to do. They're mathematically super challenging, and mostly it's failures. I have to generate them overnight while I sleep, and then I wake up and see what happened. And it's mostly just a hot mess. So it kind of encouraged me to try new things. I don't even know. I'm not worried about, I mean, I do wonder if they'll make money someday, but I'm not super worried about that. You know, we're making 360 versions in VR, just trying all kinds of really weird stuff. And I just know when something's interesting, but I also know when it's a failure. And I think to go along with Clayton's tip, as you start embarking on your new adventure, whether you're food blogging or whatever the fuck it is, whatever you're into, it doesn't matter. You're going to make lots of mistakes, right? Because you don't know what you're doing, and that's totally fine, right? You don't think that greatness comes easily. Just as with all things during lockdown, you know, be really kind to yourself and take care of yourself. But also when it comes to new creations, be very forgiving of yourself as well. Anyway, that's my hot tip. Boom. See you guys. Anything else from you, Jessica, before you say goodbye? Let me unmute you there on your 14.4 modem.
14.4 more.
Sorry, I wanted to speak.
Okay.
I wanted to speak more. Next week they're upgrading the Wi-Fi. So next week maybe if we have another one, I'll be able to be heard and participate more. But I loved to meet all of you, and thank you so much, Trey, for organizing this.
Hey, no problem. All right, guys. Bye.
Nice to
Love
meet
you.
Bye. See ya.
I'll see you across the street,
Bye.
Harriet.
Love you.
Love you
Bye.
guys. Hang in there.